We're alive now, folks.
Oh, I'm alive.
You're welcome back, Scott.
Thanks.
I declare the meeting open, and are there any, please let me know if you intend to leave the meeting early, and just a reminder that the meeting is being live streamed. So any declarations of conflict of interest? Right. We have an apology from our CEO, Kim. Would someone like to move that apology be accepted? All those seconds? Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Right. Just going through this report here. No one from the public forum, is there? Doesn't appear to be at the stage. And I have a late items. Not a. It's a. I've got a late item for discussion, but no resolution, decision, or recommendation can be made in relation to the item, except to refer the item to a subsequent meeting of the council for further discussion. We need to pass a resolution to agree to discuss this item that isn't on the agenda. And the item I'm proposing is just we have to make a decision as an option for the equivalent of the shovel ready. And I just wanted to make some discussion that we can talk about it and think about it, and later on we can put it on to our agenda. Could I have a mover that someone moves that we discuss this?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I've got an item. Well, we have late items here.
Yeah.
This is only a discussion item, and we're doing it formally under Section 46A 7A of the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act.
And what are we actually discussing?
I'm just going to ask you to discuss. I've been asked to talk about. There's a shovel-ready program that may be available, but we need to get lined up to get into it in the line with Parliament.
Is it funded?
It's funded, so I'm sorry about that. So it was moved by Tom, seconded by Marilyn. You got a question, Marilyn?
No.
No. All those in favour? It's only going to take 2 minutes, and it's just for later discussion later on. Okay? Right, reports for information. First item on the agenda is the community facilities and activities updates. I'd like to hand over to Corin, please. You're welcome to sit up here, Corin.
Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, all. So I'll take the papers read and just a couple of updates. So the Coronation Hall out to market for leasing. So I think there were 8 requests for the packs and they were delivered out, but we received no expression of interest from anybody to use or lease the hall. So what we'll do is we will look to reform and go back out, because we know there are people out there. We have reached out to a couple of places that we thought were going to come, but they at this point have chosen not to. But so you're aware of that, and we will go back out to market. And the other one's a bit more frustrating. So you're probably aware we've had a bit of vandalism recently. We had vandalism of the cricket pitch by car and also down Memorial Drive. Over the last 4 nights, we've had someone or someone's active in the community with spray paint, graffitiing quite prolifically. Not last night, but the night before, they sprayed in the Exlos, and we cleaned it up yesterday. And when we came in this morning, they've been in there again and done it again. So that's obviously very disappointing. Costs the community money every time we have to clean that stuff up, and it's also damaging a public asset. So we are going to put a media release out just stating that, because it's frustrating for the team to come in every day and have to deal with that. And we've obviously made the police aware, and we'll continue to work on that.
Just a question. Would that be the first time someone sprayed in the Woodlands?
Definitely of this colour, I would imagine.
And images.
Yes, and we're going to circulate.
I have a serious question about Coronation Hall. So you had 8 people ask for the registration packs and none came back. Have those 8 people actually been specifically followed up?
So, I think...
Yeah, because my question would be the reason for not, if there's some sort of consistent theme that we can control or influence.
Yeah, so we're on that process. I know Oz has spoken to at least one, and they've just said we've decided not to. But yeah, we will, because we want to understand if there was something in the criteria that was the decision maker, or what it was, or if situations have been changed for people. But clearly we want to get the hall being used, so we also need to actually work that out and go back out to market and try and get something.
And the other question I would ask is, have we only used, what methods of advertising have we used? Because, you know, as a property owner, we may, because it's a unique building, we may have put ourselves in a position where maybe we use a commercial broker, or, you know, I don't know.
So I think, Oz, do you want to, who did we use for the...
We just went through mainstream sort of advertising, Trade Me platforms, and our own social media platforms, and just promoting. Because there'd been interest, we had direct contact with at least 8 potentials. So that's why we elected to go with the Trade Me and the social media options to start with.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Tom.
Yeah, Corin, are we doing anything about blocking that access way at the Oval, Queen Elizabeth?
So where they got on, we think was through the green space. That's correct, isn't it, Oz?
Yep.
And it's quite...
So which space, sorry?
The green space, so straight opposite from the skate park, if you think of it. So it's quite difficult to actually block it all. So we've got some bollards in place, and where we see weaknesses we will try and block, but people are also very creative at finding other spots. I mean, we haven't had a repeat, which is good on that.
Just talking about repeats, so I'm just wondering, was that toilet graffiti 2 nights in a row?
Yeah.
We're thinking of locking it up for the 3rd night?
So I went through that decision-making process this morning. What we've decided at the moment is not to, and part of the rationale for that is that that space is actually easier to deal with than some of the other spaces. But if this behaviour continues, and this is what's in the media release we're putting out, that's our next step, is we will actually lock it at dusk, like we do all the other bullets. We prefer not to do that, because we also know that people do value that facility being able to access 24 hours, but we can't keep on doing this every day, because the costs will mount very quickly for the community.
I'm just thinking if it becomes a bit of a game.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Are we taking questions on the report or just Coronation Hall?
I think we're in the pool, but
Please take it on board.
Okay, so 2 questions. I've actually a lot of questions, but I'll do 2 at a time. Under the general rentals, it talks about 63 Manaia Road. Is one of the options actually to truck it off and spend no money on it? Because it is a block of land that I don't see as being part of the rental portfolio.
So absolutely. So what I've asked the team to do is first understand what we need to do it, but then yes. So because we didn't buy that piece of land for rental portfolio, so one of the options then is, do we sell the house, move it off the land? The land has got strategic value to us. There are other ways that we can use that land temporarily, either grazing or for storage or whatever, but absolutely. Yeah.
My second question is that under facilities, we've engaged an architect to draw up the new roof for the rear toddler pool. Now, it was my understanding we were just re-roofing it. Because, and I'll just continue with the question. on our building team, I would have thought we would have the experience to do this and get a really good steer on this without engaging an architect.
So this is a particularly complicated piece of work. So the beams, the way that the existing structure with the beams, they're laminated beams, they're delaminated because of the high moisture and chlorine environment. And the advice that we've got from structural engineers is that it needs to be designed well, but also we're taking a different approach so we don't have the same issue again. So we're looking to move away from the existing structure. So that's why we're using an architect in the space.
Did you finish before the report?
Yes, yeah, done.
Thank you, I'm sorry about that. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, hi Byron. Further on the properties, I just wanted to ask about the upper plane rental, whether it's of strategic value to us, or whether, you mentioned that on page 8, or whether there's another opportunity there.
You mean in terms of the land?
Or selling the house, or...
So I think, so that land was acquired, and Phil might be a better place to answer this than me. So this is the upper plane
Is that the one that
land.
opposite the old dog pound, sort of? Well, where are you talking about?
No, it's up towards the water treatment plant.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was land, I think, that was acquired as part of potential.
So I think we talked about two different things through you, Mr. Chairman. So we recently purchased a large block of land to the north of, it's not that block.
No, it's on page 8, and Upper Plain Road rental property has
This is-
become vacant.
On the water treatment plant site itself, isn't it?
This is the one with the grazing block and the house that has
Right.
recently become vacant.
Yep.
So my question is it of strategic value to us, or is it an asset that we could...
The land is of value to us, but not property per se.
Yeah. So it's a potentially same position. So council historically has made the decision to rent that house out.
But the land's...
But it's the land that is the value. It wasn't purchased as a
Thank you.
So on that note, could we investigate what return we would get in selling both those buildings?
So that, so yes, we're already on the process of doing that in terms of Manai Road, because that's
Yeah.
part of the decision-making process, because that's recently come into the portfolio. We can certainly, I mean, as part of that, understand what that might look like. But the key thing for us is the land rather than the house.
Any other questions? Your fourth one.
Hundreds.
Right.
Just around the archives, I see that the Weisenberg photos, that we have purchased a commercial refrigerator to stop nitrate something or others. Can you tell us how often they've been requested to be looked at and their use? Are you just doing this out of the good of our heart or what?
So
Well, is it true that no one's looked at them since 1914?
So one of the beauties about an archive, of course, is that you look after things for the future so that they are accessible to people should they want to. So that's the principle of why the things in the archive. I can't tell you off the top of my head in terms of the use of it, and I can ask that question. The photographs themselves will have value in terms of the history of the Wairarapa, and that's why the archive exists. In this case, with old film negatives, generally large format, but also actually with most of the motion picture, which we don't hold, pre-1940-ish. There is nitrate in some of those films, and there is a thing called vinegar syndrome which can occur, and that's what's being detected here. When it dries, it turns to powder, highly flammable if it goes above a certain heat, and very difficult to put out. So we've followed the correct procedures in terms of isolating that. The particular stuff that was discovered has gone through the military and been disposed of, but also we have invested in a fridge so that we can put negatives which we believe are at risk in that, so we can keep the temperature controlled and not have a fire.
Thank you, Colin.
Did you have another one? Make it 4?
No,
Oh, that's
wait,
good.
someone else.
Okay.
Let's go Stella's next, and then Bex.
Yeah, am I allowed to ask 2 questions? Morley Park. I see it features yet again, and still tracking behind intake, people staying since last year. So have they communicated to you exactly what they believe that is? I know it's a hard time financially for the moment, but we are entering the tourism time, Masterton.
So we don't, so we're not sure why it is. We've had that conversation. Just in general, bookings are lower. So last year, we exceeded revenue targets by some distance. So it's quite a shift. So we're still trying to understand what it is and why. This weekend should be a good weekend for them, but that of course is linked to the Wings Over Wairarapa Air Festival. So if that was not to go ahead because of weather, then that would not help the situation.
And just around that, so I know that a wee while ago we talked about looking into that other avenue of how we look at running that park. Is it in the work?
So we've looked at the top 10. What that looks like to us is that we would be spending money, but not necessarily getting a lot of material benefit. But what we are going to be doing with Morley Park in the next 12 months is doing a Section 17A review, which is where we look at whether we run the park internally or continue to contract or some combination of. And then off the back of that, we'll be looking at how we manage the park into the future.
Just feedback around swimming pool from some community members on Sunday. It was closed at till 2:30 and there was no notification around that, for the reason being, so lots of people went to the pools before 2:30 and I talked to 2 people that had come over for the day from Wellington, so that was a bit disappointing. Diddly-do, 2 seconds, I'll get one more in here. That's a comment, which no, I think that was it. Oh, the test results around the library, so what's that going to cost us going forward, whatever those results are? Is it a good result, bad result, or what was it?
So things to look into, you're talking about the mould testing.
Yeah.
So those results overall are actually quite positive. So our way of managing that is that there are parts of the collection which can be disposed of.
Right.
And then the actual cleaning of any items that are in circulation is just using a HEPA filter vacuum cleaner. So it's not much in the way of ongoing costs for us to do that. But what we are doing is continuing to monitor that environment, and of course we've still got the issue which we need to address around water ingress into the basement, so we can stop that.
But it's not like we're going to have to go through with mould experts because that is costly to look at all this stuff.
We're not at that space.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. I had 3, but Stella took one. On page 11 we've got the Terreo report, and the first 2 paragraphs are in Terreo, and I don't understand what we're being told. So if we have paragraphs in our report that is not our first language, is it possible we could have an interpretation?
I think the paragraphs underneath
underneath is all that.
Well, they don't read the same. Because one thing's talking about activities and the first 2 are an introduction. Anyway, it's a bit like at our citizenship ceremonies. We have a welcome in Te Reo, but then a lot of the refugees come up and say, we would have loved to know what the welcome was. So I just think, we should...
I'll take that on board and look at how we can...
Yeah, and the other thing is on page 17, we talk about predator-free Masterton and their program. I wondered if somehow you could organise a report from them back to council, because in the last grants round we provided some funding for their program, which was about urban tracking, but we haven't had a report back. So I'd really love to know how they're going and get an update on that, how the funding's been used.
So we'll talk to them today.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Chair David. First of all, Corin, I think that this is a great report in the sense that there's so much positivity in there, particularly from the community development. But the Parks and Reserves, page 9, the thing that's really pleased me is that we're actually taking up what Douglas Phillip brought up in the public forum regarding the turf at the Park Sports Ground, because there's no question there is a problem there. It says here that we're getting an independent assessment of the turf and how we can move to a more sustainable method of turf management. Can you explain just what is a more sustainable method of turf management?
So it's looking at so the way that well, not just us, like most councils around the country have managed turf to date, is generally high water usage and high use of chemicals. And so what we're looking at is understanding the turf and how we manage it, but also how we can begin to think about transitioning to a lower water use and lower chemical use, but still a high quality product. And there are ways of doing that. It just requires the right knowledge. So, listening to Douglas Phillip when they spoke at the council meeting and what they were talking about, for me there was a couple of things going on there. There's one, what is the true state of the turf, so that we can understand that, understand if there are problems, what they are, but then also how we manage that sustainably into the future, so that we can do that without causing major extra cost in the long term.
The next question I have then from Douglas Phillip's point of view is that if we're going to do that, is that going to disrupt the playing season? And because when is the best time of the year to do that?
Yeah, so I need to get that advice, but no, so the intention is not to disrupt. The intention is to actually do it in a way that we can minimise the impact and not interrupt the playing season.
Thank you. It's just that area of the ground has been a problem for some time. Everybody's aware, and it would be really good if we got some answers to it, because it's Douglas Phillip are a very high club. They've got a lot of junior players. I believe that they're a high profile club in terms of other clubs coming in from outside the area to play on that ground. And I was really sympathetic with the case that they put, because it has been a problem.
And I guess that piece of land, so it's quite a wet environment down there, so that provides a bit of a challenge. And the best solution is going to be us looking at how that works, but also Douglas Phillip working with us around the solutions, because I think it takes both parties to actually get the best outcome for the ground, because there are some things that we can do and there are some things that we need them to do to work with us to do that.
And that's why I asked about the disruption of the tip, because I mean, to me, like, you need to get it right and they need to stay off it for part of their season, and they have to stay off it.
I mean, we'll have that conversation if we need to have that conversation. I'd like to avoid it if we can, obviously, but we'll get the true picture, and then we'll work out what the best plan is to actually get out of the current situation that we're in.
And they'll get that knowledge well before the season starts.
Yeah, indeed. Well, especially we would turn up and 5 minutes to midnight expect them to...
It's just they start playing in January.
Yeah.
Which is not very far away.
Gary, I had a visit from David Wilson yesterday, and I've got Anna to and I've talked to Kim about it, and he's going to catch up with the CEO. It's probably been Corin, so in person.
Thanks, Corin.
Stella?
No, I've lost my question.
Okay.
But I'll have a discussion.
And then Tom.
Yeah, just really good to see on page 17 under given I just had a birthday, positive ageing. We've been accepted as a member of the World Health Organization, age-friendly cities, communities. That's fantastic. Is there anything, Corin, that we had to do to meet that criteria, or what are we doing for our aged, so in particular, that got us to that level of status?
So it was really So what you have to do is that it was an application, so this was put in by a positive agent coordinator, and so Carterton and South Wye in that conversation as well. It was effectively filing an application, which is talking about the fact that we've got a positive agent coordinator and a strategy, and we are taking this seriously and doing things to try and create a better environment and foster positive agents. So that's, at its heart, that's what it is. But it means that we're now connected with other communities that are in similar spaces, and we can also draw on the information and knowledge that comes from that bigger community as we think about what we do next and what we can do.
Great. You just under the library, I see the school holidays were action-packed. With over the 2 weeks, 700 children participated in our school holiday program. I'm just wondering, is there a donation paid for these children? And is this the best use of our time being caregivers for children? Is this part of our core business?
Yes.
Okay.
Libraries exist to foster a love of knowledge and learning, and one of the ways to do that is through school holiday programs and keeping kids engaged with library and reading when they're not at school, because one of the things that research has shown is that it's in the gaps between school and that often things can fall away and that can have an effect. So one of the reasons that libraries do that is to create that connection, the love of reading and engagement, and try and bridge that gap. So it's a space that libraries work in across New Zealand and across the world, and I believe it's a very worthwhile use of some of our ratepayers' money and creates a positive impact in our community.
And on that note, looking at the other end of the life cycle, on page 11, under libraries, you had digital services, delivering an information to Kandahar about what's available in libraries. Is that the service that we provide to all the homes?
So we've got a really good engagement with the retirement villages through both our so we will take books out to people who can't physically come into the library, but also where there is a need in our community engagement, librarians worked actively in this space to identify communities where there might be need around literacy. That could be computer literacy, reading, and indeed bringing people together. We will do that. So it's something which the team does ongoing. So I'm not sure if that particular thing's been done anywhere else apart from Kandahar, but certainly as part of the work the team does, if that need is there and people are looking for that, we would absolutely do that.
Just a comment about Craig's question. I just completely endorse what you said around libraries and our social equalisers, and so much research proves that literate communities are more prosperous communities, and I think what you're doing there is fantastic. Just a follow-up question to Tom's one around positive ageing. A little while ago I mentioned Blue Zones as a positive ageing strategy that's been really successfully implemented in several places around the world. Was that ever followed up on? Because it's proven it's where communities live the longest in the world. I'm not sure what the WHO process is, but this is a clear process that does work.
So I did talk to Lisa about that, but I'll need to follow up with her. So pass on the advice, but I'll come back to you with where she got to on that or if anything's happened. Thank you.
Yeah. On page 16, on the Residents Association's meeting, so I know that meeting's been held, and I know that my deputy, Bex, went in because I couldn't go. I was just wondering if Bex could give us a quick rundown on that meeting.
What was that? Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. It was a fabulous meeting actually, and I've actually asked if I can go to all of them. We had, the different communities, no.
Different residents.
Yeah, we had Castle Point, Solway, help me with this, Karen. Lansdowne,
East side.
and a new, East Side and a new community from Solway Reserve.
Yeah, the Solway Reserve, yeah, that's right.
And they all had positive stories to tell about things that they'd raised with the council that were issues for them or concerns or perhaps wants and wish lists, and how one group particularly said they were a bit fearful of council and didn't know who to contact, didn't know what to do, but now they've started the process and they're getting some action, and their group's actually grown since that because they feel like the group is getting engagement with council and working together, and that was the Solway Reserve. And they've got some great plans. If you don't know where the Solway Reserve is, it's where the driving range used to be, right next door, where that new housing development is now. And there's a group of residents there who didn't want to see it lost and didn't want to see it trashed, so they're bringing it back to the native reserve that it should be. So that was really cool. And the other notable one was probably Riversdale. They were jumping up and down about all the exciting things that were happening out there. But it was really nice to go to a council meeting with members of the public who had great stories to share and were feeling energised and positive because of the relationship. So I liked it.
Rather than negative.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a comment. I've got a comment. Yes, exactly what you said, Councillor Johnson, in regards to the hard work that the community development team do to build these groups and relationships. And I know that Solway's been on the cards for a long time, and it's awesome to read that it's finally up and running. So on that note, I'd like to congratulate your team on a really positive and successful few months of events, and I think everyone should actually give Corin's team a round of applause. Works very closely with this lot. They work bloody hard, and year and year and year things get better and better and better. And I do believe that as we enter our discussions around long-term plan and when money needs to be spent, yes, this is the warm, hearty, fluffy stuff, but this is the stuff that keeps the community together. So well done, Corin, and I will always back your team. I think that it's really a great report highlighting numerous things that your team does. And I worry that if we didn't have this community development team, who would pick up the pieces and do all the work? Exactly. So keep up with doing what you're doing, guys. I think it's great.
Thank you. Nice to have accolades from the community for a change.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay. If there's no more questions, the recommendation is that the Infrastructure and Service Committee receives the updates from the Community Facilities and Activities team on key projects and a summary of progress since the last report. I'll move the motion, which is the recommendation in the office report. Have I seconded? Councillor Johnson, all those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Stephen to come forward and present his regulatory services report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the report as read. I'll just bring to council attention a few highlights in the report. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Shane Tane. He's our new building consents manager and has come from Wellington with a large breadth of experience, so great to have him here as part of the team. From the report, the Mount Munro Wind Farm resource consent application has been publicly notified and submissions close on the 6th of December. The proposed Wairarapa combined district plan is out for consultation and those submissions close on the 19th of December. The councillors will be aware of our reduction in service in relation to our Animal Control and Variables team after hours response. This was due to staff shortage and a staff medical event. So we're pleased to inform council today that as from the 3rd of November we have recruited and are able now to put on an after-hours service for the whole 7 days of the week. Previously, it was just reduced to after hours on the weekends, so that was great. Some great work from the Animal Control Bylaws team. 279 properties were visited looking for dogs that were on our system but have remained unregistered, and that was in the month of October. As a result of those home visits and also other information, 191 infringements were issued for people that hadn't registered their dogs, and we're following up leads on those. And our quality management system under our food verification will receive our audit this December, and that's very much like the BCA. It's an auditable process that provides faith in the system that we run for local businesses. And I'm open to questions.
Okay, any questions? We'll start from the left here, Councillor Johnson, then.
Yeah, hi Stephen, thanks for your report. I'm especially interested in page 24 where we talk about the earthquake-prone buildings. What I'm worried about is one that we've identified we've got 79 earthquake-prone buildings in Masterton, the first reach expiry in 2026. We also know under the Building Act that if those people walk away, the council's up for demolition or rebuilding or whatever. That really worries me because I'm just wondering whether we can be proactive with this, not reactive, and whether we're having early conversations with the building owners so that we can perhaps identify those that are going to walk away. Because I've heard of a few that are like, when that time comes, I'm not spending $400,000 fixing my shop, I'll just go. Because a number of reasons. One, it's a cost to us and our ratepayers if we have to demolish or refurbish the building. Two, is if we're planning the rejuvenation of our CBD and there are going to be buildings that disappear, that affects our spatial planning as well. And there's lots of other reasons. But I just wonder whether we can have earlier conversations rather than be caught by surprise.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. That's one of the reasons we re-highlighted that to Council, because we have got a little bit of time, but it's a short period of time, and we will need that time to develop a policy and a strategy and engagement focus. But no, you're correct.
And we also too have, sorry to interrupt, we also too have a small number of landlords who actually own multiple properties. So the other thing I'd be interested in, of the 79 buildings, you know, are there any who own multiple properties? So it's one conversation, and yeah. So you're giving reassurance that you are working on that whole area?
Yes, we're focused on that, and we're also looking across New Zealand what other initiatives other councils are doing, because it is a problem across New Zealand.
Yep, thanks.
Right, we've got Brent.
Yeah, on that earthquake buildings, you know, Wellington's very heavily in that space and active, and you know, I certainly follow what they're doing with interest. Just query, the 6 scheduled drop-in sessions for the proposed district plan. Where do you find out where they are? Or the ones still to come?
I'll pass over to my subject matter expert on this, Christine, the policy and consent manager.
Even if you just sent out an email to everyone?
It actually, it's on the Masterton District Council website and also on social media for the Masterton, so the Facebook.
So it's on the website?
Yes.
Thanks.
Just a question, just following on from Bex. With those properties, is that across the entire country, 2026 is when they will have to be rectified? Or is that
yes, Councillor, that's the legislation. The current legislation, we don't know if there are changes to that.
Some of them are later.
Yeah, they give 7 years.
Some go to 15 years on the West Coast and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Tom.
Yeah, thanks Stephen for your report. Just reading here on page 29, talks about 500 known unregistered dogs. So a couple of questions around that. do we know, do we have an idea of the unknown unregistered dogs in our community? And are these figures, what you consider above average? Should we be worried about?
Councillor, we can only really go on the known registrations from the year before. Obviously, there are reports of animals that are stray or wandering, and when they're located, we just haven't, whether there's an owner or whether we can use a microchip to track back the details. I'll just pass over to Terry in charge of our environmental services team to see if there's a trend either way in regards to unregistered animals.
I think there is a trend across the country that there is there is a higher number of dogs. If you look up in Northland, it's problematic up there as well. But in terms of registration, we're actually tracking pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with how they're going. The team's worked really hard to follow up with owners, and we follow our enforcement guidelines as well, which is we do engagement, we do education, and then this is the final step.
So I see you made 191 notifications, and I guess that's
infringement.
Almost, yeah. And is that for unregistered those?
Yes, yeah.
So is that unregistered number higher than normal, Jim?
No.
That isn't.
It's about, there's a few more unregistered than previous years, but it's about right. We have going and doing the face-to-face talk with people as well, trying to do that one final, please get your dog registered before we have to issue an infringement, does really work. It does take a lot of time, and we are spending time on non-compliant owners, but at the end of the day, the goal is to get these dogs and these owners compliant and registered, and so that has worked. So these people that haven't registered their dogs, they've been issued an infringement. If their dog was to get out and be impounded, they still need to pay registration and penalty in order to have their dog released from the animal shelter, as well as the $300 infringement in stamps.
Okay, and you're working your way through that list.
We're working our way through, yeah.
Right, thank you to you and your team.
And Councillor, just to follow up on that question, it's after the completion of this report, the team have done a great job following up on some information where a rural property was visited and 9 unregistered dogs were seized. 9. The owner did the right thing and has registered them all, but so when we do have the staff and the time, we do follow up on those things.
Yes, two items. Just following on from Beck's around the earthquake buildings, I'm just going to note that I have brought this subject up twice now in the last previous INS meetings, requesting a plan of attack. Like Beck's, I want to be proactive, not reactive, and we've got literally 2 years left. To me, just as I now know how long things take to get done through council, I'm concerned with timing. So could we have a commitment or a time frame around when we can start doing some work on this? Because I see it as being a little bit of a project that we're going to have to be involved in.
Certainly, Councillor. We will prepare some stats, a bit of a strategy, and talk to fellow colleagues to maybe have a workshop in regards to.
That would be great.
Probably be in the new year though. But.
Yeah, that would be really good. The second thing is around the angle parking at Uncle Bill's and the Ministry building car park. Now, I will admit, I park like that at Uncle Bill's because it's really easy and it's really convenient. Now, I didn't know that are you legally not allowed to park in that manner?
No.
Okay, thank you. You learn something every day. My concern is there's been massive uproar about this on the online community. Gary's page, I think, has had a bit. I get asked all the time about that. Do you think it's necessary, instead of us just dishing out the fines left, right and centre, that we put some signs up? Because I think a lot of people in our community, like myself, didn't actually know that parking in that manner was against the rules.
We've gone to the step of costing out getting some barriers to put down, cheap barriers that we're looking at installing, exactly for that purpose. We'd rather people spend money on businesses than infringements.
Okay, thank you for that. That was all.
Great. I'm just I do think it's quite overzealous, the whole thing. It's They would have got bigger things to worry about than people allowed in the car park. No one's been in it.
Oh, I
So that was-
disagree. I don't reckon that's the point. It's a bit like people parking on berms. People say, well, let them park on berms. Let them park on footpaths. Rules are rules, man. You break them, you do the time.
Okay, moving on. Any other questions? Well, if there's no other questions, the recommendation is that the Infrastructure and Services Committee receives the update from the Building Control Services, Consent and Planning and Environmental Services teams. Am I an over for that motion? Mayor Gary Daniel, I second it. Stella. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Chair.
Welcome, Phil. Phil's got a bit of an update, a few pages that to read about, so that's not a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, councillors. Just a couple of items. For some reason, the document in Stella dropped off the last 4 pages of the agenda. I'm not sure why that was. I just noticed it before, so we just printed those out and given them to you in hard copy. I don't think there's anything too earth-shattering in there, but it was just for the sake of completeness. Both the Stella version and the online version on our website missed out those last few pages. I don't know why, I just apologise and I hope that a moment to have a quick look at them as well. So other than that, I will just take the report as read. Just draw attention to a couple of bits and pieces. We are continuing to make progress with our various projects. We are progressing with the Coburn Street properties, as I've got there, and both road and water projects are progressing as well. The water projects, which will be on the handout that you've got in front of you, are running over budget, and we discussed that previously in council workshops. Then I'm happy to take any questions and do my best to answer them.
Questions, first one's from Bets.
I've just got two. Phil, thanks for your report. This one relates to the independent review commissioned by our chief executive on the wastewater. I just wondered when you're expecting the results of that.
So we just signed the agreement there this morning.
Oh, okay.
So
Still waiting.
Kim's just been through, the chief executive's been through a process to assess a couple of options. We've had some proposals come in from 2 different companies, and we now just sign up the company this morning.
Okay, and my final question is, there's an update here on the animal shelter, but I don't feel it's quite full enough because it says that the project scope and timeframe have been confirmed. I'd just like to know I don't know what the timeframe is. So if you could just give us an update on when you expect works to start and completion perhaps.
So we are still working on finalising the details of the contract. There's been some issues around doing that, so we're actually applying the contract signed at the moment. We're hoping to do that imminently. Once the contract is signed, the intention is to get the first implemented in place.
Okay. Thank you.
Tim.
Just a comment and some question to follow. I just want to share some feedback from 2 families from the Coburn Street area. So the Trail family, they want to recognise Duncan. Duncan, the guy who does work there, and said he's just absolutely fantastic and he does a phenomenal job. And they specifically wanted me to share that with council. And also Hazel, one of the families that was impacted as well, she also spoke to me and she's very happy with the outcome of her pump being installed. But I do want to know, what I've put down is one property for further investigation, but even tank or reflux. Why are reflux valves still a consideration here? And when that investigation's done, for the 4 families or households that have had reflux valves installed, are they aware of the tank option and what's the difference between both? Or have they just been advised that the reflux valve is the option for them without being aware of the tank option?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So our guys have spoken to every single person down there, including, say, those other families. It's not always appropriate to put the tank in, just depends upon the lie of the land, without getting into too much details. But they've been through all the options with the residents and spoken to them about it. The last one, which is still problematic, is it's just a difficult angle. The lie of the land is quite hard to actually get it fitted into just how it's set up. So the guys are still working on a solution to figure that one out. That's the last one they're working on. If they get a tank in, they will, but it might just be a reflux valve.
So the 4 houses with reflux valves who won't have access to water and access to they're normally running with their property.
They will still have access to water. So the reflux valve, we're just talking about the wastewater here, the water system, the water supply will still work with the properties. And
So, oh, sorry, so they don't have the issues of the waterloos and things like that.
So some properties are more affected than others, some than others. So these, having discussed it with our team and our staff, this is what they've agreed to.
And these families or these households are happy with that outcome, and they're aware of both options.
But
You're saying the option of the tank was not available for these four households.
So they've agreed to that. I can't say they're happy, I haven't spoken to them personally, but this is what they've been through and spoken to with our team, and this is what has been agreed to with them in particular.
So if there's any follow-up done with those households and they were aware of the tank option, they would not be surprised that you think, we were given that option, the reflux valve.
That's what I understand. We've sat down with the families. I haven't, but my team has, and we've discussed what the options are with them, and they've got to agree to this course. And what we have said to people is that if it doesn't work, we'll come back to it.
So can you say this on us?
What we have said to them is that if it doesn't work, we'll come back and look at something else. I don't know if that's specifically been said to those four properties, but that's what we've been saying to people. If the solution doesn't work, we'll look at something else.
Just Stella, and then Brent.
Yes. Just a comment and then a question, but thank you for just the breakdown of the Copen Street sewer works. It's just nice and easy for me to understand what action's been happening, so thank you for that. Just around the independent review that we agreed upon that we were going to have done, do we know A, when that's going to happen, and B, if there's any costs around the end, any costs of the review, the cost of it?
Yes, we have got some costs which were given to us by the consultant that's going to be doing it. The review will kick off pretty much straight away. We have had some conversations with them, myself and the CE. With a report back due early in the new year. And proposing a workshop with councillors and the as well, taking through various options. I'm not sure if I should mention costs.
Review costs, it's okay, but we're aware of currently what they are, like we're aware of it. So when it becomes a big surprise.
One of the proposals that came in was a schedule of what they're proposing to do and the cost of doing so and what the outcomes are going to be.
In early next year. Lovely, thank you.
Brent, that's a good one.
On page 35, 4K, it's footpath 4K renewals for 565. 565 is our annual budget, and I thought we generally were getting 8Ks renewals of footpaths for that price. I'm sure I've seen that, I can't.
I have to check that on the books, but I think 4K is correct. I might be wrong though, it might be 4K remaining, so I'll have to come back to you and check on that.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I just have two questions. This might be for Corin actually, if you can answer it, Bill. We've got an update on the youth hub here. I just remembered that some external funding was applied for to help with that, and just wondered whether there was any success with that.
We believe we're going to hear today or tomorrow, so...
Oh, you haven't heard yet?
No.
Okay. Thank you. And my other question was for Kane. We've got an application into Kotahi for funding for the cyclone recovery work. I just wondered, obviously you haven't heard back, but when you expect to?
I haven't heard any more information about when I expect to hear back from them. I'm picking that they're waiting for the new government and the minister to come into play before they can make decisions around allocating funding across the nation, across the Motu, before they can decide. So
Okay.
I'll follow up again with my investment advisor this Friday. He's meeting with me this Friday, but he's also in the same position, I think playing the waiting game. Yeah.
Thanks, Kane.
Yeah, just on Copen Street again, I think once the decision was made to do that, I guess, remedial work, I think good progress is being made. I'm not sure how long it takes to put in the tank and everything else being built. So I think, once you guys have gotten started, it seems to me there's been good progress. My question is, and I know we haven't had significant rain events since, but is everything working so far?
Well, as you say, Councillor, we haven't had a significant rainfall here this summer, but what has been installed is working, so far as we can tell.
We've had a bit of surface water though, lying around some of the streets and so forth, so I'm just wondering at those times you haven't had complaints or...
We haven't had any problems so far, but the sort of rainfall we've had wouldn't have been such to trigger the events anyway. But the intention is to get the work completed by Christmas, certainly by the summer.
Great.
Just a comment, this is just a comment. Kate, the remedial work that was done at Riversdale, the northern end by Surf Lifesaving Club, excellent work.
Oh, great, thank you. I'll pass that on to the contractor.
Gary.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting, page 38 on your report on the transport choices, Lansdowne to Kurupeni cycle thing. There's a comment here that Waka Kotahi have advised that the Schedule 2 funding agreement cannot be signed until direction on the program from the incoming government is received. Is that sort of a warning that maybe this whole thing's going to fall? That you've got some knowledge that maybe the incoming government's not going to look on this quite as favourably as in the past?
I couldn't possibly comment, Your Worship. At this point in time, we've pushed out our tenders till the end of January on the expectation that the funding question will be resolved by then. No, I can't comment on what.
It's just that in the past, and I think it's no secret that councils in general have often debated with some force the fact that Waka Kotahi seem to be a force on their own, and that really government doesn't have a lot of say in what they actually do. And I'm just wondering, when I see a comment like this, that if somebody knows something, that perhaps that this government's going to take a different direction.
At this point, Your Worship, all they've told us is that they can't confirm that funding agreement at this point in time until the new government's in here, so until we get that confirmation, we can't.
So there is uncertainty about this now.
I guess so, yes. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. The indication we've got from Waka Kotahi, their contacts are, we need to wait to get that funding agreement signed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry to pull us back to Coburn Street again, but that's what my question is about. It says Coburn Street, but I guess you're considered Colombo Road and other addresses as well.
So there's 21 properties, some of which are on Coburn, some of which are not, yes.
The trails are in Colombo Road.
Pardon?
The trails are in Colombo Road.
Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, that the recommendation that the Infrastructure and Services Committee receives the update from assets and operations on the infrastructure projects and areas of project focus. Could I have a mover for that, please? Craig, seconder. Thank you. Right. I'm sorry I confused you all before, but I just thought I was able to come along and bring up something new for discussion, but I wasn't going to do it officially the way I did, so my apologies. But it is about, it's sort of, thanks Phil, I was approached by our new MP yesterday to inform me that there's a waiting list of people queuing up for funding, and any council's eligible, but the most important thing is we need to get into the line. And he's just sent me a note here saying negotiations for city and regional deals will begin shortly, with councils and regions urged to begin identifying priority projects immediately. So I'm just asking if, as a council, we could perhaps pull up two items. I immediately thought of water storage. And if he's here on Wednesday, if he's not in the house, I believe tomorrow might be a big day, he's happy to come along and discuss this privately out of vision with cameras and so forth. So we just need to prioritise something. So it's for discussion for a later date.
Are you able to tell us what the criteria is?
There's no criteria. It's to do with it's exactly the same, much the same. I haven't got the criteria here.
Oh, well, if you could check it out.
I will.
Because I know with the shovel ready, there was a strict box.
I think it needs to be that we're going to be in the basket that we're going to do it anyway, which
Let's get-
upper plain would come under.
Get the facts.
The other thing too is that the Wakamoku would come under that umbrella as well, because MFE, they own all the intellectual property for it. So could we, I'd just like to move that we have discussion about it next week.
I'd just like to say, let's do it quickly. I remember working on a provincial growth fund application, and back in the day, if you got in early with that scheme, it was far less complicated than if you got in down the track. So if we can get in early, I'd encourage us to do that.
So could I just put it on to the people that draw up the agenda, perhaps we could look at it next week, if it's possible. All those in favour, everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Well, with no further ado, thank you for your attendance, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
David or Gary, can they let the meeting go on?
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. We'll make this close.